Hello, we would like to discuss this question today from GATE examination 2023 from the paper Life Sciences, question number 95. And the question is a matching question. So it states match the syndromes listed in column 1 with the cause or symptoms listed in column 2. The column 1 and column 2 are given. In column 1, there is Prader-Willi syndrome, Down syndrome, Cushing syndrome, Turner syndrome, and Fanconi syndrome. And in column 2, some probable causes or symptoms are given. And we have to match them, and these are our options A, B, C, D. These are the options. So to solve this particular question, we need to understand what are these syndromes. Now, some of them are genetic syndromes, so they are inherited, or these syndromes are mediated by genetic dispositions, whereas some of them are not. So we will discuss. So we will begin with Prader-Willi syndrome first. So what is Prader-Willi syndrome? Prader-Willi syndrome results from the absence of a region of chromosome 15 from 15q11 to q13. So this is the karyotype of a Prader-Willi syndrome patient, and as we can clearly see here that a part of the chromosome 15, one of the chromosome 15 is missing in this patient. Now generally what happens, there is also a concept of imprinting here. That is, generally what happens that the genes in this region are only active in the chromosome that is inherited from the father, so not from the mother. So the mother's gene in this particular region of chromosome 15 is usually not found to be active, so the father's genes are active. Now in case that there is a deletion of the genes in the chromosome that we have received from the father, or in case there is the genes are missing in this particular region, or in case there is uniparental disomy, so which means that we have inherited both our chromosome 15s from our mother, which is an unusual case, or like if both the chromosomes are inherited from the mother, or there is an imprinting mutation. So in all of these cases, it can cause the genes on the paternal chromosome to be inactive. So either the part of the chromosome can be missing, or there can be some imprinting, or there can be two chromosomes from the mother. So as I mentioned, the mother's genes are inactive in this region. So of course, if we receive both the chromosomes from the mother, then therefore the genes in this region will be inactive. In all of these cases, this can result to this Prader-Willi syndrome. And there are the typical the typical symptoms of the Prader-Willi syndrome include an excessive appetite with overeating, and then weight gain, restricted growth. Children are much shorter than average. Floppiness, it's caused by weak muscles, which is called hypotonia, learning difficulties, lack of sexual development, and behavioral changes like emotional outbursts or physical aggression. So it is a genetic disorder, as we can understand that it is caused by some missing genes in the chromosome number 15. Okay, is that there in the question? Let's see. Okay, this option 3 in the column 2 is states a genetic disorder usually caused by a deletion of the part of a chromosome 15. So therefore the Prader-Willi syndrome P matches with 3. Right, now we will look at the options also. Before matching the rest of them, we will first look at the options here. So in the option A, P matches with 2, option B, P matches with 4, option C, P matches with 3, and option D, P matches with 5. So since Prader-Willi syndrome matches with 3, so which means P matches with 3. So our correct option is going to be C. That we can say without matching the rest of them. But let's see if that is valid, and we will match the rest of the columns also. Okay, now coming to Down syndrome. Down syndrome is a very common syndrome, and it is a genetic disorder that is caused by trisomy of chromosome number 21. So it is called trisomy, which means that there are 3 chromosome number 21 present in the patient. So this is how the karyotype looks like, that there are 3 chromosome 21 present in the patient, or it is called a trisomy, and it leads to intellectual and developmental delays, heart and gastrointestinal problems, and other medical abnormalities. So its severity can range from mild to severe, and children and adults with Down syndrome have distinct facial features, like flattened face, small head, short neck, protruding tongue, upward slanting eyelids, poor muscle tone, broad short hands with single crease in the palm, relatively short fingers, and small hands and feet. Most children with Down syndrome have mild to moderate cognitive impairment. So their cognitive development is impaired, language is also delayed, and both the short and long term memory is affected for these patients. Now, how does the trisomy occur? The trisomy occur because there is non-disjunction. So typically it results from non-disjunction, which occurs during cell division, which can occur during cell division. So we can see here that during the meiosis 1, first of all, the homologous chromosomes, they move to 2 opposite poles, and they are separated into 2 cells, 2 daughter cells during the meiosis 1, which is something that does not happen in this case. Due to non-disjunction, both the homologous chromosomes are moving to the one cell. So all of these homologous chromosomes are in one cell, and the other does not receive a homologous chromosome, does not receive this particular chromosome. Right. So now after that, during meiosis 2, as the 2 chromosomes have come in meiosis 1, during meiosis 2 also, now these gametes will contain 2 copies of the same chromosome. But we know that the gametes are haploid. The gametes should be haploid, so they should contain only 1 copy of a particular chromosome. But here in this case, they contain 2 copies of the same chromosome. And then when these gametes are fused with the sperm, then it results in the autosomal trisomy. How? Because the sperm also delivers another copy of that particular chromosome, and therefore now there are 3 copies in the zygote. So that is how a trisomy can occur due to non-disjunction during the meiotic division. Alright, so Down syndrome is because of the trisomy of 21. So here is Down syndrome, and this is the option, that a genetic disorder caused by the presence of all or part of a 3rd copy of chromosome number 21, so trisomy. Okay, so Down syndrome matches with Q matches with 4. So Q matches with 4. That is correct. Okay, now moving to Cushing syndrome. Now Cushing syndrome is different because it is not a genetic disorder. Cushing syndrome is a disorder that results from abnormally high levels of the hormone cortisol. We know cortisol is the stress hormone, and this causes obesity, fatty deposits in the midsection, face, and between the shoulders and upper back. And some of the symptoms include obesity, weight gain, fatty deposits, and then purple or pink stretch marks noted on the breasts, the arm, abdomen, and thighs, thinning, fragile skin, slow healing injuries, acne, excessive facial hair, muscle weakness, fatigue, glucose intolerance, increased thirst and urination, bone loss, high blood pressure, headache, cognitive dysfunction, emotional changes during anxiety, irritability, and depression, frequent infections, irregular periods in women, erectile dysfunction or loss of sexual interest or infertility in men, and slower rate of growth in children. So, Cushing syndrome is actually named after Harvey Cushing, and it's an endocrine disorder. So remember this, Cushing syndrome is not a genetic disorder, it's an endocrine disorder with elevated cortisol levels in the blood. So this is the structure of cortisol, and it results from the pituitary adenoma. So the pituitary actually grows in mass, and because of that, because of the pituitary adenoma, there is excess production of the cortisol hormone, and that develops the Cushing syndrome. Okay, so Cushing syndrome therefore matches with a collection of signs and symptoms due to prolonged exposure to corticosteroids like cortisol. So R matches with 1. Here also R matches with 1. Okay. Next, coming to the Turner syndrome. Now, Turner syndrome is again a genetic condition. It's a genetic disorder. It affects females due to partially or completely missing X chromosome. The symptoms of Turner syndrome can vary between individuals, and it can lead to various developmental and medical problems. Some of the symptoms include short height, delayed or no puberty, absence of menstruation, incomplete sexual developments, learning disabilities, problems in understanding social situations, heart and kidney abnormalities, and more. So what is Turner syndrome? So we have generally 46 chromosomes, right? We have generally 46 chromosomes. But when there is a monosomy, and this monosomy is on the sex chromosome, that is on the X chromosome, it specifically affects the X chromosome. So when there is this particular karyotype is 45X. 45X means that among the two X chromosomes, one is absent, right? So one is absent. So only there are 45 chromosomes, not 46. And in this case, we can see that even if the father and the mother both have 46 chromosomes, there is one chromosome that does not come from the father, and therefore there is a monosomy. Monosomy means that one less chromosome is present, and which is why the child has only 45 chromosomes, and that is the karyotype. So again, how does it occur? It can occur because of non-disjunction. So non-disjunction, and this is more frequent in sperm. So it can occur at two steps, that is one in the meiosis 1 or either in the meiosis 2. So similar to this case, similar in this particular case, similar to this case also, like Down syndrome, here we had seen that when there is disjunction, if the two homologous chromosomes, they come to the same daughter cell during meiosis 1, the other gamete does not have any X chromosome. Okay. So this is with respect to the X chromosome. Now therefore, when these gametes are fertilized by the sperm delivers one X chromosome, but the other X chromosome is not present. So now these two gametes, these are monosomic for that X chromosome, right? So this can occur at this particular step, at the step 1 or the meiosis 1 level, if there is non-disjunction. So these two gametes, when they will be fertilized, they will contain only one X chromosome, right? And therefore they will be monosomic, and that can result in Turner syndrome, or it can also occur at the second step, that is in the meiosis 2. So during meiosis 1, the chromosomes are separated properly, and the homologous chromosomes moves to two opposite cells, and then in one of them, what happens is that in one of the cell there is non-disjunction. So then the two chromatids of the same chromosome, they move to a single cell, and the other cell does not receive any chromatid. So therefore this particular cell, when it will be this particular gamete, when it will be fertilized, it will also have only one X chromosome, which will come from the sperm, right? What if there is only one Y chromosome and there is no X chromosome? So that is not a viable condition. So therefore, if the gamete only has one X chromosome, it will result in Turner syndrome. So this is also a result of the non-disjunction event in the meiosis. So now coming back to the question again, Turner syndrome is because of a genetic condition in which a female has partially or completely missing an X chromosome. So S matches with 5. S matches with 5 here. And the last one is the Fanconi syndrome. So Fanconi syndrome is a syndrome that is a defect of proximal tubule of the kidney, leading to the malabsorption of various electrolytes and substances that are usually absorbed by the proximal tubule. So we know that while the process of urine formation takes place, there is absorption that goes on in the proximal tubule, and if there is a defect in this absorption process, it causes the Fanconi syndrome, and it could be an inherited or an acquired condition. So in case of Fanconi syndrome, so there is this global proximal tubule dysfunction, and the cause or the etiology can be genetic or it can be acquired, right? And what are the symptoms? The symptoms are growth failure, hypovolemia, persistent acidosis, rickets and osteomalacia, constipation, and weakness. So these are the components that cannot be absorbed properly, like sodium ions, phosphate, bicarbonate, glucose, and the amino acids, right? So these are the conditions that can generate from the malabsorption of these components, like phosphaturia, renal glycosuria. So glucose is not absorbed. Amino aciduria, so amino acids are not absorbed. Tubular proteinuria, proteins are not absorbed. And proximal renal tubular acidosis, so when there is acid development. So that is Fanconi syndrome. And if you match it, Fanconi syndrome matches with a syndrome of inadequate reabsorption in the proximal renal tubule of the kidney, right? So Fanconi syndrome, T matches to 2. T here matches to 2. So our option C perfectly justifies. So therefore this is our answer. And that's all. Thank you.